One influencer looked at 7 men who just performed for the entire planet at the World Cup final and decided the problem was that they looked too feminine. Within 72 hours, she had locked her Instagram, deleted her stories, gone silent, and this is the part nobody saw coming. She'd been signed up to work at polling stations in basically every corner of Brazil. She thought she was throwing one little insult into the void. What she actually did was poke the single most organized fandom on the internet. And ARMY answered in a way that is now being written about in Korea, in the UK, in Japan. So let's talk about exactly what happened, because the timeline is wilder than the headline. Stick with me, because the part everyone's screenshotting comes near the end. Here's what I'm going to walk you through: who this woman actually is, the exact words she used, why they landed so badly, how ARMY mobilized, and the twist that turned a K-pop argument into a national conversation about doxing, free speech, and where the line is. And I want to be clear up front. This isn't me telling you to go do anything. This is a breakdown of a story that already happened. Because whether you're deep in the fandom or you just wandered in from the World Cup, this one says something about how the internet works in 2026. Let's get into it. Her name is Pietra Bertolazzi. If you're outside Brazil, you probably had never heard it before this month, so here's the quick version. She's a conservative influencer with over 1 million followers. Content-wise, she lives in the lane of religion, politics, traditional family values, anti-feminism. She identifies as a devout Catholic, and she's built her whole brand on being the person who says the unpopular thing. But here's the detail people love because of the irony. Before all of this, Pietra wasn't a conservative commentator at all. She studied fashion. She worked as an electronic music DJ, playing some of the biggest rave and EDM events in Brazil. She was on a reality TV couples show back in 2016. Then around 2018, she got pregnant, stepped away from the nightlife world, moved into public service in São Paulo's government, and reinvented herself as a political voice on Brazilian media. So the woman calling 7 pop stars vain and too into their looks used to headline electronic music festivals. File that away. It matters later. Okay, the World Cup Final 2026. Global audience. Hundreds of millions of eyes. And BTS performs. Let that sink in for a second. A Korean group at the halftime of the biggest football match on Earth. That is a cultural checkpoint. That is history. For ARMY, that was a scream into your pillow, remember where you were moment. And while most of the planet is losing their minds in a good way, Pietra opens her Instagram stories and posts, and I'm paraphrasing the widely reported translation here, that these were men who look and pose completely feminine, full of vanity. The word that traveled fastest was effeminados, effeminate. Now, she clearly thought this was an insult. That's the whole tell. The entire premise of the comment is that looking feminine is a bad thing, an embarrassing thing, a thing that makes you less of a man. That's the part that lit the fuse, because ARMY has heard this exact tired take for over a decade. The eyeliner jokes, the "are they even men" comments, the lazy xenophobia dressed up as a fashion critique. And in 2026, after the World Cup stage, the fandom was in absolutely no mood. Let me explain why this specific comment detonated, because it wasn't just someone insulted my faves. First, the timing. You don't take the biggest career moment in a group's history, a genuine barrier-breaking global performance, and use it as a launchpad to mock how they look. That reads as trying to shrink something huge into something petty. Second, the framing. Calling them effeminate as a diss isn't just an insult to 7 men. It's an insult to every fan who's ever been told their taste is embarrassing. Every queer kid who found safety in this music. Every person who's been mocked for not fitting some narrow box of what a man is supposed to be. That's why it read to so many people as homophobic and xenophobic, not just rude. And third, scale. Pietra has 1 million followers. But ARMY? ARMY is a coordinated, multilingual, cross-continental machine that has funded charities, moved album charts overnight, and organized faster than most news outlets. 1 million followers is loud. "Army is an ocean," she was shouting at the tide. So here's where it goes from internet argument to international news story. Army mobilized. Fast. The comment spread, got translated into a dozen languages, and the backlash rolled in from Brazil, Korea, everywhere. Standard so far. But then came the twist that made headlines from Seoul to London. According to widely circulated reports, fans got hold of her personal information, and instead of just flooding her comments, they used it. The most quoted example, they allegedly registered her as an election poll worker, a messeria, across regions all over Brazil, signing her up for civic duty she never volunteered for, everywhere at once. Reports also describe her being enrolled in services she never asked for. And here's where I have to be a responsible narrator with you for a second, because this is the genuinely complicated part. Leaking someone's private data, doxing, is not a clean win. It's illegal in Brazil, it's a real harm, and Pietra publicly claimed she'd been the victim of crimes. A lot of thoughtful people in the fandom said the same thing. The take was gross, but personal data being leaked crosses a line that shouldn't be cheered, so this story has two edges. And honestly, that's what makes it worth talking about instead of just dunking. The result? Pietra locked her Instagram, set it to private, announced she was stepping away from social media, went quiet. For someone whose entire brand is being loud and unbothered and always ready with the hot take, going silent is the loudest thing she could possibly do. The person who built a career on never backing down, backed all the way down. Then she resurfaced, not with an apology, but doing what commentators in her lane do, reframing herself as the victim. Mocking Army, leaning into "look what these fans did to me," positioning the whole thing as proof of how unhinged the other side is. And that's a genuinely smart move for her audience, right? For her followers, this isn't a loss, it's content. It's a persecution story. So depending on which timeline you were watching, the exact same event was either fandom holds bigotry accountable or mob attacks a woman for an opinion. Same facts. Two completely different movies. So what do we take from all this? 1. BTS at the World Cup was so big that even the people trying to insult them had to admit, by reacting at all, that the whole world was watching. You don't waste energy mocking something small. 2. The old playbook. Haha, they wear makeup. Are they even men? Is dead on arrival now. It doesn't read as edgy. It reads as dated. The culture moved, and comments like this just date stamp the person saying them. And 3, the messy one. Army's power is real. When millions of people organize, they can make a national figure vanish in 3 days. That is genuine cultural muscle. But power like that comes with a question the fandom keeps having to answer. Where's the line between accountability and going too far? Ratioing a bad take is fair game. Leaking someone's private data is not. And the smartest voices in the fandom know it, holding both of those thoughts at once. That comment was ugly, and doxing isn't the answer. That's not weakness. That's the fandom being smarter than the people who underestimate it. Here's the bottom line. Pietra Bertolazzi tried to make BTS's biggest night smaller. Instead, she handed them a headline in 5 countries, reminded the entire internet how fast Army moves, and turned herself into a case study. 7 men performed for the world. One person called it too feminine, and the world pretty decisively disagreed. So I want to hear from you. Was the fandom's response justice, or did it go too far? Drop it in the comments. I read them. If this breakdown was worth your 10 minutes, like it, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Borahae.